Hello, in this video you'll learn how to generate schemas of JSON from your objects, essentially in C#, or rather not objects necessarily, like you would read the data of JSON, maybe serialize it to JSON strings, but more of a definition of your data, so your classes and things. You can generate the schema and check for basically different bits and pieces in the schema. Now, this way you can validate and verify the data structures. It can also be quite useful to extract that perhaps for some debugging purposes and things of that nature. This is more of a niche thing, it's more for validation, but chances are if you are watching this, you probably already have a need for it. So let's get to how you can actually do that. And I will get into the NuGet packages right away just to kind of show you there is nothing that needs to be installed. As you can see right here, it's all good, it's all very native. This is, mind you, .NET 9 specifically, not earlier versions, so something to be wary of. But then we use System.Text.Json, and from JSON we use nodes, schema, and serialization. Mainly, of course, we are looking at schema part, but all of that stuff is also needed. So let's look at the simple one, just a simple one for now. First of all, we have options. The options, they do include several things. As you can see, we're using a default. We can also use web, which is more for a web, but these different configurations, usually it's going to be default. Web kind of more handles, obviously, for API purposes and things of that nature, and you can set your own options, but let's stick to this simple arrangement. Now, once you have the options, in order to get the actual schema, you'll need to use get JSON schema as node. So you get this JSON node, which contains all the information basically for this object, which is a person. Let's jump into that quickly. In this case, this is a record, not a class, but essentially it's a relatively straightforward thing. We have name, we have age, and we have something else. We will later look at a more complex one, but idea is still exactly the same. We get type of for the definition, right, for the record in this case. Remember, it's type of, not directly the type, because we need to get the type of in order to use it like that. Relatively straightforward. And we get the schema. Now, the main thing, of course, is getting the schema and converting it to JSON. And as you will see, let's do it like this. We do have perhaps a few things, so we can get the root and the parent, but other than that, really there's not much you need to do with this, or you can do with it. Mostly it's just using to JSON string. The JSON string takes JSON serializer options. So we need the serializer for this to work. We can take the options, although as you can see, it can be no, but we want to do right intended, so we can actually get the right permissions as such. So with this, we just take it and write it to a file, and that will be a JSON file. Now, the structure, it won't be like with example data or something. No, it will be specifically the type that it takes. This can be useful for establishing some documentation in some cases, or pre-documentation if you have some negotiations going on with some other teams where you're sharing your API endpoints with other people, or doing something public where it needs to be verified by someone what you actually provide to be received by someone who implements your APIs or use your library just through this sort of arrangement. Most likely it's going to be web API, right? But this way you can generate your result, so you won't actually make a mistake doing manually. You'll get all the types, all the everything, and you'll get the properties, which is the important thing, right? So in this case, we have some required ones. That's going to mean name and age, kind of important. But more importantly, you get different properties and their types. So right here you can see we have type string, so we know we're gonna get string. The more useful probably thing would be we get type integer for age. Now age probably is gonna be integer, but maybe you're talking to someone and you have some kind of a value, say for example size or something, and you put it as integer, you think it's integer, but then they say, oh, we need a decimal, so you kind of avoid that problem. Obviously you can also use this for validation and going deeper, just a few use cases for this. But now let's look at something a bit more complicated. We can comment that. And there's going to be also the options. The more complex one, again, it's the same example. We get schemas node, and then we do 2 JSON strings, so we get the actual JSON string with all that data attached to it, so we can actually look it up. A relatively straightforward thing. And again, well, it's complex as such or not, we use the same kind of an arrangement. Construct JSON serializer options. Then from options we get JsonNode, and from JsonNode we get toString, which is a string for that schema. We can jump a bit into this more complex one just to kind of show you. So as you can see, we have the category, which obviously makes the whole thing more complex because category is sort of separate, completely separate structure, right? And we can also have the list of reviews, which is a list of a type, right? So list is a type, review is a type, and then we have this whole thing. So this won't be required, but let's just run it like that. So as you can see, it gives you the whole tree. However complex you want to get, doesn't matter, it should still work in general. So right here we have reviews, okay, type array, that's good enough. It's sort of array. It's a bit sort of different, right? But it is what it is. So these are the required ones, and then obviously that was set null, so it's not required. The reviews, but reviews will be again mentioned as array. The types are a bit sort of different from what you'll have in C# itself. That's something to note, but generally you will be able to tell a difference. Now, a good example for this, let's see. Right here we have price, but that is still a number, so that is what the result that we are actually getting from all of this. So we have categories and all that. Getting to the final thing with options. So just a few things here. We can do different naming policy. So right here, let's actually run this quickly so we have a bit of a sample here to compare. Casing option. So this is basically what kind of casing it will generate. Let's get to something a bit more easy. So we have say category like this, and then ID name like this. So we will be using additional properties and all that stuff. So we can put in a few options here. These are sort of relatively straightforward. We also get the pattern, very useful thing, just to validate these things. We do not have, we do actually have a product ID like this, so you can see product ID, that is the way it's generated. Now we can change, for example, property naming policy, and these are sort of the main ones generally, I would say. We can use, say, Kebab Case upper. I'm not sure if we'll get the example here, but yes, we can actually get the example. So you see, now it's all upper, and also we use Kebab Case, little separation like that. So that can be useful. That can be very useful. And then we also handle numbers as string, but we can change that. So we can do like strict. The descriptions are sort of there to some extent, but basically you can play around with those options if you need to. Obviously, this one might probably be the most useful. Other than that, again, once you get into the options, you get the schema, you get the node. Well, node is schema essentially, and then you get it to string, so you can have something readable to actually read. The code is available on Patreon. Do check it out. There's some free courses for certain tiers. Quite some useful material for a relatively low price. And with that said, we will conclude this video.